Thanks again, Helena, for hopping on to another episode of Untapped Stories. Before we get into your coaching background, everything you're doing now, day to day, I'd love to go way back to the beginning and give our audience kind of an expectation of who you are as a person. What was your athletic background like growing up? Because we do reach a lot of young athletes and parents. So, for everyone listening, I guess really what was your athletic origin story? Were you always a basketball player, or was that kind of like a second sport for you? Maybe soccer being big in Spain, or what was your come up story like for sports?
I've always loved being active and playing sports. At school, I would always play soccer at recess. But then I wanted to do some self defense sports, so I started doing judo. And I have an older sister, she was playing basketball. And when I reached the age of 8, all my friends were joining the basketball team. So I kind of felt a little bit of peer pressure to join. And that was when I stopped doing judo, which I was already almost like brown belt.
Oh, wow.
So I started basketball, and I didn't have a very good beginning to say. So I was pretty clumsy, and coordination with, the basketball was a little bit hard. But then, yeah, I think like one day I made the decision to actually put work into it and be good at it. And I feel like things just escalated after that. I was at my club team, which was in my neighborhood in Barcelona, until the age of 14.
Okay.
And then some teams, more competitive teams, came recruiting me. So at the age of 15, I switched to Famani San Adria, which is one of the best teams in Spain. When I transferred, things started to change. I started playing Spain championships, and that's when Spain national team actually recruited me, and I made it into the team. And I was with the Spain national team for 5 years,
Oh, wow.
in which we ended up winning 4 European championships. The other one, we got a bronze. And then I also had the opportunity to go to the Youth Olympic Games in 2014, which was in China. We positioned third. We got a medal. My last 2 years with the national team, I was playing in the US. I was playing college basketball. I played for 2 years at Fairfield University,
Yep.
Division One. And then because I also wanted to study acting and theater and sports, Division One sports, they are pretty hard to combine. So, and at that time, if you transfer to another team, you would have to sit out for a whole year.
Yep.
And I didn't want it to sit out, and I knew I would have the same problem of combining both of my passions. So I went to a school in San Francisco called Academy of Art University, which is all majors focused on arts, and they had like an athletic department back then, and I was able to finish my studies and be in the basketball team, and that was Division Two.
Okay. Well, a lot of questions on that origin story. I guess maybe one of the biggest things, and I know it's a hot topic in youth sports today, but do you think you doing judo early on in your life had an impact on how good of a basketball player you became?
I was always competitive. I was always competitive, but also, I mean, and this is a little bit, this is true. Like, I wanted to make my parents proud. So I think like that's how I started in basketball. I would say like it started from people pleasing, but also I end up finding my love in it because it was just another extension and expression of my capacity and my determination to to succeed at anything that crosses my mind.
That's really cool. And that time period in life there. So I know as college athletes, pro athletes, sometimes I think we're older now. we think like any kid can make it from 8, 9, 10 to playing in high school, college, or pro. But when you're going through that as a young athlete, it's really tough to make it past the next stage and beat out competitors and make the next big team. You mentioned that one point in the story there when you went from just playing basketball at 8. I think you said then you started to take it very seriously, and before you knew it, you were getting recruited by the Spanish team. What happened in that period of time? Was it you training nonstop, or were you playing like pickup games nonstop? Like, how did you actually go from clumsy, Helena to making the Spanish team?
I've never had like goals about like playing professionally or getting to the national team, or but I did have dreams about my acting career since I was very young. So that was kind of like where my mind was. And I feel like being in touch with my body, and it was just like being very taking every practice very seriously. And it was like at the end of like just proving myself what I'm capable of, right? And there was a moment that I saw that if I kept pushing basketball, I've always wanted to come to the United States. Since I'm 7 years old, I wanted to live in America. So I saw like, wow, basketball was gonna offer me that opportunity. But I made that realization a little bit later on. But I feel like it was just a way of proving myself what I'm capable of and being the best version of myself. And I was just taking every practice very seriously. And when things started coming, like other teams recruiting me and the national team, I feel like I never seek that. And I feel like that relates so much to like where I am in my life right now, that like because I'm seeking so much other external things coming, it's so hard to like leave space for what is happening at the moment.
Yep.
And because I was just so present and taking every day and just wanting to be the best version of myself and have fun with my teammates and my friends, everything else opened up, right? So I think like at the end it goes back to like just creating your own opportunities and doing everything that is in your capacity. And when you do that and you enjoy what you're doing, that's when like everything else falls into place.
That's so wise, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. I know I've had some like basketball thoughts and training thoughts to get to in a second, but I really want to double down on this for parents and young athletes because I don't think a lot of people realize. It seems like for you, I know for me and for other people that we've talked to as well, basketball or sports wasn't always the end goal. It sounds like you loved acting, you knew that was your passion, but you pretty quickly and smartly realized at an early age that basketball could be your vehicle to get to where you want to go to. So I guess if you're talking to young athletes or parents nowadays, like what would the message be for, again, say you like sports, it's really fun for you, but you don't want to play in the WNBA or the NBA. How can you use sports to get to where you want to be?
I feel like it's important to have ambitions and to have goals, and I want people to continue dreaming. But and that's a lesson that I feel like I'm realizing right now, that like you don't want that to have so much weight in your life that creates dissatisfaction from what you've done so far and for where you are, right? So it's good that people want to push themselves, but at the same time, like you have to value the process. You have to celebrate the small steps, and because I feel like that's when other things will actually happen. But because sometimes we just have, like, let's put an example, right? Um, you're playing the playoffs, right? And your mind is on the final, and like, no, you still have like a semifinal to play, but like because you're already so far ahead, like you might not even like, and many things can happen, but like you have to focus on what's in your hands right now and where you are, because at the end of the day, like this is what matters. These are the moments that make a difference. What are your daily choices and where's your mind at?
I think a lot of people, that's so smart. They do get caught up in chasing the dream, especially if it's sports, acting, whatever it is, but they kind of lose sight of what really matters day to day, like building relationships, improving yourself constantly. And it's not it really isn't the end goal, it's the journey. That's where you want to be the entire time. But so many people forget that as they go through like chasing these big dreams. So
Yeah, and it's so cliche, but like to really embody and be like, okay, this is it. Like this is like I'm actually living an old dream, you know? Like
yeah,
I'm already living the dream fulfilled. So when you acknowledge that you're already like I wanted to be a basketball player. Okay, you are a basketball player. So like you're already living a dream.
yep,
That will shape everything else because you will live with so much gratitude, and I'm sure like you will spread the seeds of the life that you want. But I think that's until you fully embody that, it can take the time that it takes.
yeah. No, that's really smart. Uh, In that segment alone, there, I think there's a lot for parents and athletes to digest. I kind of want to switch to maybe like not basketball trainer, but like life beyond playing for you. So now you're acting, you live in the Los Angeles area. I know you've been training athletes for a long time, and that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on. I mean, the parents and athletes that we send to you always love training with you, so we know you're an awesome coach. But I guess when you're working with athletes nowadays and like being on the lookout for parents, what are some things that you think in today's day and age? Because I think the game's a little bit different even than when you and I were growing up 10, 15 years ago. What do you help athletes overcome? And like, what's the main difference between a good basketball player nowadays and like a really good, potentially great basketball player?
So something that wasn't taught to me, and I mean, I had incredible, wonderful coaches, but it was never taught your mindset, never. And that's the first thing that I address with my players. Like when I know they're missing layups, it's not because I'm never gonna punish them to go run. I'm not gonna be punishing them because it's not about the fact of skill. It's about where are they in their thoughts. So I always stop them and I'm like, okay, what's happening? Where's your mind at? Okay, so how can we bring you here right now and create a supportive mentality for you to be successful? So what happens before, because I was coached in a very disciplined punishment way, I feel like now as an adult I had to rebuilt a lot of things because I saw that authoritarian voice wasn't supportive anymore. So what happens is I see many kids beating themselves up mentally because they are not good enough, and I feel like the most important thing is building a supportive mentality that I'm like, okay, when you're about to finish the layup, don't leave room to think if you're gonna miss. Believe yourself so much that the ball is gonna go in. When you have a free throw, I want you I want you to inhale. You're gonna let all the air out and I want you to see the ball going in, right? So it's all about, yeah, be strict with yourself, but without having destructive thoughts. Because at the end, you're not gonna get anywhere. So I think that's the main thing that I approach with my players is where your mind is. How can we change your thoughts in a way that like can go the way things you want? Because I think that's the biggest difference between a good player and a great player, right? Good players execute well, train hard, they are coachable, but great players are the ones that are able to shift their mentality, that are able to stay composed under pressure, that are able to adapt to new situations. But in order to do that, that takes training. And that's a training that nobody talks about. In order to train your mind, you have to do it day after day after day. And that applies to every single area of your life.
I love that you said that. We've been doing this for about a month and a half, trying to talk to like other high level athletes, high level coaches. I think most coaches have had that same sentiment, and that sentiment was not around 15, 20 years ago when we were growing up and playing. And I'm sure you grew up and played in Europe. I played a little bit of pro ball in Europe, and it's that same mentality, which is still there, and it's fine. Like it works with some players, but I feel like the game has really changed and training has really changed. And when you get to the top now, you kind of realize that everyone's got skill, everyone's got talent. And when you're young, like 8 to 10, if you're more talented, sure, you're going to beat out your competitors. But when you get to middle school, high school, especially college and beyond, everyone's good. So what's going to separate the good from the great? And I think everyone that we've heard say, including you now, it's your mindset. But you can, I think parents and athletes don't realize that you can train the mindset. It sounds like you agree. It's not you have it or you don't. You can work with kids to improve their confidence, again, be strict on themselves, but be compassionate. I like that tip. It's kind of like you have to have both. You can't just be lackadaisical on yourself, but you actually have to drill down when the time comes, but not, beat yourself up over losing. So, yeah, I'm really glad you said the mindset. And there's a lot you could go in that route, but I think having the right mentality for where you want to be is everything for being a great player.
And that's something that can be taught, A good coach has good emotional intelligence.
Yep.
And be able to create that safe environment for them to improve their skills, but also like their thought patterns.
I know I worked with a lot of kids. You can tell off the bat if some kids need a lot more hand holding and a big step back, or if some kids are ready to be pushed from day one. But it really does depend on the kid too. I guess another question I'm dying to ask you, because I was kind of in a similar boat to what I'm assuming you were in when you were younger. I know just to confirm, are you 6'1"? You're over 6 feet tall, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I knew you were tall. So growing up, I was in a similar boat. I think when I was 14, I was like 6'2" or 6'3", and I always got pigeonholed when I was younger as a center. So if you're talking to, and I never played center beyond being younger in my life. In high school and college, I played guard because as I got older, I was actually short, being like 6'3", 6'4". So when you're talking to athletes nowadays who are maybe on the tall side and they get by their rec league coaches or volunteer coaches pushed into being centers, how do you work with parents and athletes who know that they're probably not going to be 7 feet tall and they want to become guards?
So first of all, I want to say to these players, I empathize with you, and I'm sorry that you're put in a position in order to benefit the team, but not to benefit you.
Yep.
So understanding that it's the key, because now I would say now it's when it comes the opportunity to seek outside coaching to help you continue growing individually. So I make all my players, because I I would say I didn't learn to dribble properly since the last until I was almost in college,
Oh, well.
So, I mean, I got away with, European basketball, there's not that much dribbling,
Yeah, a lot of basketball movement.
Exactly. A lot of movement, right? But that helped me become a very intelligent player. But
Yeah.
then when it comes to individual skills, that's something that I had to seek outside. So just working on your handling, working on your shooting constantly, 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 all those areas, treating you want to build a well-rounded player. Then the coach will position them whatever helps the team the most. But then it's when I talk to the players. Okay, I have a girl. She's pretty short, and they have her posting up. And then I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. You're faster than everybody, yeah, right? So from the plays that they are building, I look. Okay, here is where you can create your own opportunities. Because at the end of the day, you're giving the card that you're dealt with, and then, okay, how can you create your own opportunities? If they have you be at the elbow, you can catch there, you can do pass fake and, try to beat them with your speed. Teach them if they are shorter, then you can teach them some fakes, in order to get by the taller defender. Or maybe if you get the rebound, and we're working on your dribbling, take it down the court,
Yeah.
so kind of find those situations that they can explode what we've been working outside and their individual skills. Because at the end of the day, if they start creating their own opportunities, then the coach will start doing that too. But first, they need to come up with something on bring something to the table.
I like that. I think that point there that you mentioned too is really key where you can't control it. I mean, if you are a super tall kid, if a coach hasn't played beyond, high school, college, a lot of them will just naturally stick you at center because that's basketball. Tallest kid plays center. That doesn't mean you have to just sit in the paint the entire time. Like you can, if you have the guard skills and you've been working on it, again, you're going to grab a lot of rebounds, snatch it, go up the court and make a play. And then people will eventually say, I can't just stick this kid in the middle of the paint. I have to let them be on the wing for a bit or use their guard skills. But you only get to do that by training on it so you can use it in the games.
Right.
Yeah, wow. I love that. What about, I guess, staying on the topic of young athletes and like aspiring to get to where you were? What about the rise in women's hoops? I feel like over the last couple of years, it's exploded in terms of engagement. Obviously, the WNBA is taking off, and it's like rivaling in terms of social media stuff. At least like what the NBA is. How cool has that been to see? Because I don't know. I'm more versed in, I guess, American women's hoops. I don't know what it's like in Europe, but I guess just being a hooper, having seen the come up now, how cool is it to see?
I mean, it has been incredible to see the growth, just like with the NIL, also like the amount of visibility. When I finished college, I was debating between continuing playing basketball or not. And because besides me wanting to pursue acting, I was like, well, what's the point? Because I'm gonna play a few more years, and then once I retire, I won't have the funds, I won't have the means, the financial means to live off that. So especially with women's basketball, it's still like a very long way to go. I'm actually making a podcast about this and how women have to reinvent themselves after sports. So it has been great to see that it has increased visibility, sponsorship, but we still have like a long way to go. So female athletes can make a career, but also have an out after career.
Yeah.
Because it's not your body. There's a moment that you gotta retire, right? So hopefully, as we've seen this change happen, things continue to evolve, creating a better outcome for these female athletes.
I like that because I know from, the guy side, it's a risk anyway. But if you try to shoot to play in the pros and you are that good, you can make a living and be good on life for that, and then just do whatever you want. But I guess from the women's side, that dream has never really been there, and it's becoming a dream now. It's still not the level the NBA is, but I agree. If the outcomes were there, I think a lot more women who have the potential to play pro for a longer time. It sounds like you probably would have gone for it if the means were there, but they're just not, or they weren't at least. It's getting better, so that's an interesting take. Maybe one of the last questions, Elena, if you could go back in time, maybe to that 8-year-old Elena who just finished her last judo session and is like, I like this basketball thing, but like I don't really know if I'm ever going to be good. What would you tell young Elena at that point, having learned all that you know now?
I would just say to be kind to myself. I feel like I lived, and I'm still working on it, and it's probably a lifetime thing to work on. But the feeling of not being enough, and um, yeah, I as I mentioned before, I wish somebody would have taught me to have a compassionate and mentality. I love how determined and disciplined I am, and I'm not saying like it has to be one or the other. I think like both can coexist so much,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, be kinder to myself. I feel like I had to later on as an adult rebuild all this. So I want to say to like all these young athletes, if you're passionate about this, absolutely pursue it, work hard at it, but it all has to come from a place of joy, because at the end it's a sport. I know it's serious, but like it's a game, so you have to enjoy what you're doing, right? And the beautiful thing about sports is they teach us so many lessons in life about how to be a good teammate, how support, how to support others, how to have good etiquette, but also like about applying all this to oneself, and yeah, and have compassion and just patience.
I think that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of people when you're young, you're just like constantly trying to get to the next ladder, and it's so competitive, and it's just natural to be hard on yourself. But I feel like having gone through what I went through, and it sounds like similar things to you. I mean, that's why we love AU, but just like coaching in general, because you can really get a different perspective if you work with someone who's been there. I know, been a kind of our origin story back in the day for me. My dad played college football, but didn't really know basketball at all. So I had kind of like I had to chart my own path in hoops, which was fine. But you learn a lot. You have good experiences, bad experiences. But it's just a kind of working with your parents. If you have somebody like I've been through that now, or you've been through that, and you can work with a young athlete to teach them that at a young age, I feel like it changes so much, and you can really alter a young athlete's direction, whether they become a pro or not. Who knows? That's kind of up to their skill and maybe natural talent, but you can at least set them on a right path with treating themselves well, having compassion for who they are, and just like teaching them to enjoy the game and have fun with it. Because there's so much pressure nowadays. I know the one thing we didn't talk about, but it's really important, I think, is the over engagement in social media for young athletes too. Like a lot of young athletes, and it's good. You can get an idea for what kind of player you want to become and how the best players actually play on the court. But if you're only watching highlights from the top NBA or WNBA players and you're not there, it's always going to lead to a level of dissatisfaction because I'm not good enough, or they're so much better than me, or I saw a highlight of my friend making a great play, and like I should be doing that. I need to be better. Like a lot of people have to focus on themselves and not worry about what others are doing. And
Right, right.
it's a hot topic today.
Yeah, so that's where the kindness comes from, right? Like there's like it's just so unnatural to like be comparing ourselves to others because we're just so different in many ways.
Yep.
And when you're constantly comparing with other people, you're doing a discernment to your own capacity and your own skills. So again, it's a battle with oneself about being the best version of themselves. But again, it's also like not beating themselves up. Like, yeah, I was the player that like I overtrained. I especially in college, I overtrained, and it got to the point that like I was just beating myself up, and I was like, I gotta do more, I gotta do more. I would wake up at like 4 something, be at the gym at 5, go to class and have team practices, and after dinner go shoot. And like at the same time it was just I was getting obsessive about it, and it was just I was never satisfied, right? So you just wanna, yeah, you wanna train, you wanna get better, put in the work, but at the same time, as we discussed today a lot, it's about what are your thoughts, what are you feeding into your body and your mind, you know?
Yeah.
So comparing yourself to others, it's it's not a good place to be.
And maybe the last question, Elena, and this has been such a good chat. Didn't plan to ask this one, but I kind of noticed it in your story, and I think a lot of parents and athletes they go through that, and it's way more prevalent nowadays than when we were playing. You said that you started out playing Division One. You didn't want to transfer to another D1 because you couldn't have the at that point in time. You can't transfer without sitting out, and I'm sure it would have been a whole hassle. So you transferred to D2. What was it like for you going from D1 to D2, knowing that a lot of European and American kids shoot for D1 and it's like the end all be all. And then I guess in theory, we know now it's not like that, but in theory, you're taking a step down from D1 to D2. What was that like for you? Did you enjoy it? Was it a hard decision? And what ultimately came from it in the end, do you think?
It was amazing. I lost the love of basketball in D1, and it's not only me, all my teammates. Like there was a moment that like I was frightened. Like they would pass me the ball and I would freeze. I would freeze, I wouldn't know what to do. And the thing is like this is so common, at least that I've talked to so many other women players that they've played Division One, because of all the pressure and everything, and like you're just another number. Um, I lost, like again, it's a game. I was so afraid of like making mistakes and being sit out that like I actually stopped following my instinct. I stopped, doing what I loved. And when I went to D2, besides me being able to focus on studies, which I couldn't do in my D1 school, man, I just fell in love with the game again. I was so happy to go to every single practice. So happy. And there was still like good level and like,
Yep.
also like my coach believed so much in me and like I was able to explore point guard positions, that I've
That's
never done in
awesome.
my life. So like um I just loved it so much. And like we didn't need to train those 4 hours. Maybe it was like 2 hours daily. But like I would just enjoy them so much and be excited about every game. And I feel like that has to do with, the coaching, the mentality. And again, you have to enjoy what you're doing. If you stop enjoying it, then certainly you're not gonna get the results that you want.
I really hope parents and athletes. uh, I mean, you said so many good things. That's such a key message because again, so many people just shoot for that top of the mountain, and it's fun to try to climb. But like, it's great for people who play D1. It's a good avenue. You can have fun. You can enjoy it. But I think you really have to know what you're getting into. Is what it comes down to. Like it's a business. Your teammates might not be your best friends. Like everyone's pretty cutthroat because you're so high up. And again, the next level after that is getting paid to play a sport, which everyone wants to do. So why wouldn't you be cutthroat and competitive? But it's just you have to know that.
But also like I mean, I've already played at that high level. Like I've played like games like we were like it was on the table like being European champion,
That's
five
true.
times. But like it was not like the level of it or the pressure of it. It was the business side of it, and I also feel like my coach didn't create a good environment for us to thrive. You have to have good relationship with your coaches, and it has to be a good environment where you feel safe.
No, that's a really good point. That's
And
oh, go for it.
And something that I would like to say to all the parents and absolutely the players is as an athlete, you're taught so early on that your value is based off your achievements. And as an adult, to be able to break that, it's hell, right?
Yeah,
You don't love your friends more or less for what they've accomplished, but certainly you you look at yourself and you're more or less proud of what you've done based on your accomplishments, right?
yeah.
So redefining this is super important. Like your accomplishments are great, but it's who you are on a daily basis. It's you're not just a basketball player, you're a son, a daughter, and the many ways that you can have an impact on everyone's lives regardless of your accomplishments.
And a lot of people forget that, no doubt. And even just going back to the D1 thing quickly too, I agree. Maybe the pressure isn't the right way to frame it because and it's not even that arguably, playing for a gold medal in the Olympics, that's more pressure than like winning a random Division 1 game in January in the middle of Connecticut. But I think it's the business side, like you said, where everyone's job is on the line. Like people want to climb to the next ladder, like scholarships and money is there. So it's a whole different ball game that you walk into. And again, there's maybe like more at home pressure, but that stuff is good. Like people love that. It's when you get to talk about business, money, people's jobs that it's just like it's a way different, and that's still relevant in D2 and D3, but probably not like D1, where budgets are bigger, cuts are more prevalent. So I think for any athlete wanting to get into it, again, it's a great avenue to chase. Just kind of know that it's a business. It's not just like playing a sport for the love of it, like you probably can more so at D2 and D3.
And because it's a business, it's important that you're able to also have a degree. So if you see that your coaches don't really care about your studies, I think that's a red flag.
I agree wholeheartedly. I know there's maybe 5 schools in the U.S. where like I'm sure some D1s nowadays try to place the athletics above academics, but if you've been that far, there's only a handful of certain people that are going to make enough money playing that sport to actually not have to care about the academic side. So even if you're on a D1 team, mid-level, whatever it is, you should still focus on your grades and do a good job. Like you can't just drop that side of it because you're not going to get paid millions of dollars to hoop after school. So take it seriously.
Yeah, even if you don't follow any career based on what you've studied, but like it's just like becoming a more knowledgeable human,
Yeah. I
having
actually,
more skills about life. Like even okay, if you become a successful basketball player, it would be great if you knew a little bit about business,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Or like I don't know, if you are into physical therapy, like everything that you study would always support you in anything that you do.
Yep.
Maybe not in college, but like anything you learn in life, there's gonna be ways that those will combine. So why just make yourself small and just being one thing?
Yeah. I think athletes forget that. The point of college, going way back to before NIL, which isn't that long ago, but it was to play sports if you can, but ultimately learn, be a part of a thriving community, and make yourself a better person. Now with NIL and the money that's thrown around at D1, it's just like that's really pushed to the wayside. And again, if you're playing basketball at Duke, sure, it's a different game, but 99.999% of kids won't be doing that. So if you're at those low level mid one, sure, if you get NIL money, that's very cool. Getting paid to do that stuff, that's not going to last you a lifetime. So get the education, build the network, become a better, smarter person, and you'll be thankful you did at the end of the day, I think. Honestly, Elena, this was super fun. One of the more engaging chats we've had, honestly. Your feedback was awesome. Again, you have the perfect background, coaching, playing high level, and in college. So I think parents and athletes are going to eat this up. And yeah, thank you for hopping on. It was really good to get your feedback.
Thank you so much, Vina. I appreciate your time.